Hey everybody, this is going to be our new series that you're looking at here. This is an Atwater Kent Model 67. It's a battery operated radio, and you'll see here in a moment that's where the batteries would go. And I don't know a lot about it yet. I'm just about to start doing my research here, but it looks like it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tubes. I noticed that the tuning dial is frozen, which is expected. I've worked on one of these older Atwater Kents. I think it was a Model 42, and it's very similar to that, except this is not in the metal case. So looks very, very familiar. There's a copper band that rides across 1, 2, 3, 4 tuning dials. So this is definitely an old radio. But besides that, obviously there's a lot of cosmetic work that has to happen. There's not a lot of electronics in this thing. There's obviously some sardine cans underneath with capacitors. This is a block of capacitors in this tar, and the challenge for this one is going to be building the power supply. If I've done my homework correctly, it needs 180 volts, 90 volts, 45, I think, and we can confirm that by looking at the battery. So the actual battery is in the chassis, which is amazing, and it's got a Burgess battery here. And it looks like it's 22.5 volts in here, and this is for the B and this or C. And if you look at the top here, it says 22.5 volts, 3 volts, 4.5, and 16. So we're going to have to build a power supply for this thing that will fit inside this canister. That's going to be my plan. This thing is stuck on here. Let's get that out of there. It's really cool to find the old battery, though. I've never seen one of these batteries in a radio before. And this is like a rust bucket, this thing, from all the battery acid. So we're going to have to take this thing out, soak it in the Evaporust, get it cleaned up, paint it, paint the cover. So this is going to be a cosmetic restoration as much as it is an electrical. The front panel, this thing's very heavy. By the way, take a look here. It shows you the battery connections, which is cool. So you're supposed to use 2 of those batteries that I showed you and connect them together. That's how it works. So that's going to help me build the power supply for this thing, which will fit inside here. Taking a look at the front, right there, you'll see it's in pretty bad shape. There's a broken knob here, but we do have the Atwater Kent logo right there, Atwater Kent 67. And I assume we've got a volume and a tone and all that stuff. Here's our power switch. And then looking at the other end, right here, in the back here, we've got a ground. Let's see if we can move that camera so you can see it. Right there. So we've got a ground, our short antenna, and our long antenna. And then we've got a plug here for a speaker. I don't have the speaker with me. This actually belongs to one of the guys in my band, and I'm going to do it for him. It belonged to his grandmother, I think. So I'm going to restore this for him and give it back to him, and I'll figure out what the speaker is and ask him to give it to me so I can test it later, but we're far away from that. And then on the bottom, there's a plate that comes off on the bottom of these things, and it reveals very, very minimal components. Like I said, it's mostly sardine cans full of capacitors and resistors, I would imagine. But we'll get to that later. So I think our first course of business here is going to be to get this battery container out of here, get it in the Evaporust, start that process, because there's a lot of rust in there. And then we're going to take a look at the tuning dial, see what's going on there. The good news is that the copper band is not broken. That's usually what happens with these things, is the band breaks, and then you're screwed. So the band is in good shape. I just think this thing is probably in need of some lubrication. I don't see any issues with coils right now, but I assume these are my coils right here in these little cans. And I'm going to have to check those coils out, because that is the first suspect of what could be wrong with this thing. If those coils are broken, we're dead. So we'll have to ohm those out and check them. So that's the story. I don't know much about the tube lineup yet, but we'll get to that too. I don't even think there has to be a rectifier tube somewhere. And it looks like they've got an Arcturus tube in here. This is a Cunningham, but it's got the Arcturus logo on the top, so they reused the bulb base. Anyway, that's going to be our next project. So what I'll do is I'll come back with the schematic, and we'll kind of walk through what this thing is made out of, and then we'll take it from there. All right, I'll be right back. So I want to show you what's underneath here. So for those of you that have never seen a radio this old, like, take a look right here. This is a handmade wire wound resistor, long before they had traditional resistors. And we've got one on every tube socket. There's one here, and there's one here, and I don't see one there. We've got a resistor here, here. We've got a, I assume it's a sardine can with some caps in it, right here. We've got a lot of rust underneath here from that battery compartment. We've got a piece of wire. It looks like there's somebody was in here at one time with electrical tape. And I assume that these dog bone resistors here, and there's one underneath here, are probably 2 watts. And that's why you don't have the wire around. So this is a pretty simple restore, I think. I'm pretty confident it's fairly unmolested under here. I just don't understand what the electrical tape deal is, but it looks like someone may have replaced something at some point. We'll figure that out. That's why we're here. This mess of wires looks like it goes to the battery. So it looks like looks like at some point somebody changed something in this. I don't know. I'm gonna have to just dig through it. But not a lot of work to do under here except to replace these with modern components, figure out what the values of these things are, and then the coils, if I remember, the coils are here. So we should be able to ohm out these coils fairly easily and figure out if they're good. Matter of fact, let's take a chance on one now. I don't know. I haven't looked at the schematic very deeply here. All right. So we're going to follow this coil right here. So there's 2 wires coming out of the coil. One is here, and one is here. Let's see what we got. That coil's good. Let's check this one. One wire goes here, and one wire goes back here. Trouble in paradise on that one. Okay. Let's see what we've got here. We've got 2 wires coming out. One goes here, and one goes here. So that one's good. So at the moment, it looks like this coil may be an issue right here. We're going to have to take a deep dive in there and look around, see what we get. This one also has tape on it, so I don't know if the connection is not good, but we'll get to that. So at least we know 2 of the 3 coils are good. We'll have to see what that ends up looking like. And I think that's it from a coil perspective. This is that big old tar can right here. So we've got our work cut out for us. All the electrolytic caps are buried in that tar can, so we'll be able to remove that can, get all that goop out of there, replace it with a circuit board inside the can. So that'll be easy. And we're good to go. All right, I'm going to remove that that battery box. Let's do that first. Be back. One thing I want to show you, take a look at the chassis where that, underneath that can. Look how nice it is. A little shiny, right? So that's going to be the hope for the rest of this, that we can do the same thing and get it back to this. That's the plan, but we've got this rust to deal with. But we're not going to get too crazy about that. I think Naval Jelly will fix that right up. I'm not going to worry about painting it because it's going to be underneath that can anyway. We just want to make sure it doesn't keep rusting. But we're looking good here. And if I remember, this is the coil that I have to look at right here. So we know that this one is good, and we know that this one is good. I didn't check this one. I missed this one here. Anyway, I've got some work to do. I believe this is a coil here as well in this can. And the real fun comes when we take this can out and dig in the tar. The way I did that on the other Model 42 that I worked on is I put it on the barbecue for a little while. It melted, and then I just dumped it out and refilled it. So we'll probably do the same thing here. All right, let's see what else we could do. Okay, from a progress perspective, I have the battery tray right now soaking in the evaporust, and most of the rust is gone. The cover I've got pretty much cleaned up here. You see it took all the paint off and everything, which is great. So it really makes a good surface for me to prep. And all that's really left here is the remnants of the glue. I was able to preserve the cardboard that was inside here, like this. So I'll be able to put that back in after I paint this. And the way this gets painted, there's like a chocolate brown that goes here, and a tan goes in the center. And then that can that's in there gets the chocolate brown. And that's going to be where I insert the power supply for this thing. I've also taken off the front panel. Now in this particular model, the front panel, as you can see here, that's it's off. The front panel had a wood grain, almost like a piece of contact paper applied to it. I'm going to see if I can find something like that and put it back on. If not, I'll just paint it brown. But I'm going to try to see if I can get something with a wood grain that I can apply to make it look authentic. So that's happening now, but that front panel's got lots of rust on it as well. So we're going to let that soak. One thing I did notice about the battery compartment, there are a few holes in the can from the rust and the acid. Very small, but I'll just fill those with some JB Weld and before I paint it, and there'll be no problem with that. So I still haven't gotten this coil ohmed out well, and I don't see any obvious damage to it, which is unusual. I would have expected to see something, some wire hanging, but there's nothing hanging. So I'm going to chalk that one up as I don't know yet, and see if I can figure out, looking at the schematic, exactly what it's supposed to do before I react. So that's the only coil that I wasn't able to check out, ohm out, this one right here. We'll get to that. So what's really left to do here, I'll show you a little bit of what I'm talking about. See these bands right here? This is the tuning bands. These are actually copper. Now, I think I told you this when I restored my Atwater Kent Model 42, I had to take these bands off and clean them because they were just dingy, and get them back to a copper. So we'll do that, and we'll get them back to where they need to be. And this gear here has to be lubricated, and we've got some work to do there, but we're far away from that. We've got a lot of rust work to do in here in the chassis as well. So we're still in the clean phase. This radio is has a lot of 22 tubes. I think these 3 tubes are all 22s. So I'll give you the tube lineup in a future video. But we're making some good progress. And before I end this video, I'll show you what the can looks like. I'm going to let it soak one more night. So tomorrow I'll take it out and show you what we'll do with it. Then we're going to let it dry, and then we're going to start giving it a little bit of primer, and we're going to work from there. I'm also in the process of working through my power supply. So I'm designing the circuit. So this radio requires multiple voltages. The voltages that I've noted that it requires are from the A and B side. You've got 45 volts, 135 volts, 180 volts, and 67.5. And then the C side is minus 4.5 and minus 45. So I'm designing my circuit, but in the meantime, I think I'm going to use this transformer for my high voltages. This is a 500 volt center tap, which means I have 250 on each side on the secondary one, and then I have 6.3 coming out, which I can use for the C+. But just in case, I'll go with this one, which is a Tamura 3FD410. So we've got some choices here. I'll put my schematic together. I'm going to ask Brendan to take a look at it and make sure I'm not doing something that's going to blow up. This is my first time ever designing something, so bear with me. But that's where we are, guys. All right, I'll be back and show you what that can looks like tomorrow. Be right back tomorrow. One other thing I want to show you, I have a spare computer that I just recently replaced. And I thought about it and said this would make a great bench computer. So I have it mounted on a hydraulic arm, and it's right on my bench. I'll actually pull this out so you can see it. But what it's great for is I could put schematics up there as I'm working, and you can see my bench there. So really cool addition, and really didn't cost me anything because I was going to throw it out. So it's great for that. It's great for schematics. So I'm going to be using that from now on so I can follow along where I am. All right? It's a good idea if you have an extra computer. It's definitely worth it. Be back. Hey folks, we're back. It's actually about 3 days later. But we've accomplished what we wanted to accomplish with our evaporust. And take a look at the battery can here. Looks brand new. Check that out. All ready to be primed and painted. There are some problems with this can. As you can probably see some light in there. The battery acid did rot out part of it. There's actually a really big spot here, which I'm going to explain what those magnets are in a moment. You can probably see right there. But that's the only damage. It's really from the battery acid. The cover is in perfect shape, ready to be primed. Also, the faceplate has been derusted. That's ready to be primed and painted. And you'll see the emblem there came out really nice. And we've also derusted the top cover that goes on top of these tubes. All I need to do is get some paint remover and get rid of this brown paint, and then I'm ready to paint this as well. So this has all been derusted as well. So we've been doing a lot of derusting work. But what I wanted to show you here, there goes the cover. What I wanted to show you here, I'll take these magnets off for a moment. This is called the John from Arkansas repair. You can make believe that this is a 1966 T-Bird, and you'll see there that it's just rusted through. Not good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece of plastic and I'm going to put this over where the holes are, like so. And I'm going to take my magnets and I'm going to apply magnets to this thing to hold it down solid, like so. Make sure I get on the camera. I'm going to stretch it a little bit. And we're going to put our magnets there, like that. And you'll see we've got a fairly good connection there. We're going to put another magnet over that. And what I'm going to do from the inside is I'm going to put some JB Weld in there and fill those holes up. And that's going to be able to prevent this from getting any worse. And it'll also allow me to sand it on the outside. I don't think it's going to really come out so bad. My only question is, am I going to be able to get this plastic off the JB Weld? But I'm not going to worry about that. So we're gonna do the old JB Weld test on this thing and see what happens. And then if it works good, John can do it on his trunk. Right? So let me go do that and I'll show you what it looks like. Be back. Alright, we have our epoxy in there, and it's getting dry. It's a little tacky still, but we're going to let it dry. If this works, we're going to do the whole bottom with that, because you can see that those rust spots on the bottom. If I were to chip those away and, let's say, get a wire brush, the whole bottom would be open. That's just how bad that battery acid is. So in order to stop the rust and kind of strengthen the box, we're just going to use the JB Weld method, I think. But we'll see. I'm going to let it cure overnight, and then I'm going to remove the magnets and the piece of plastic that I have here, and we'll see what it looks like. How bad could it be? I'm going to paint it anyway, right? We shall see. Well, there you go. Look at that. Real nice. Nice and smooth. Just needs a little bit of sanding. And this thing is ready to paint. So look at that, John. There is the answer for your trunk. Magnets and plastic. I use plastic instead of cardboard. Same thing. Alright, so we're going to proceed here, and we're going to follow the same path under here. We have the same thing, and that of course will be the bottom. So we're going to use a lot of JB Weld, but it's worth it. It'll hold this thing together forever. And that rust is encapsulated, so it's not going to go anywhere. So this is a good thing. So that method works. A couple of magnets. Alright, I'm going to end the video here. I'm going to continue this work. Next thing we're going to do in the next episode is we're going to take this apart. We're going to take this entire front off. We're going to take all these tuning caps out. We're going to strip the deck, and we're going to derust it and clean it. Okay? So that'll be next. Talk to you guys later. Bye.